Ian, I'm going to start with you. I saw your grading of the trade in your article. I'm not going to ruin it for you. You just tell me what you think of the deal.
For a second here, I thought you were putting some grades up here and you had an F by Alex DeBrincat and a D for Sabrango. And I thought, boy, Wally's getting really
Bitterman.
taking out the red pen. Look, there's a lot. One thing I've learned, I'm sure the two of you have been on social media the last 24 hours. The temperature is running pretty hot right now in this marketplace, and emotions are running high, and it's really tough to make a clear-eyed, level-headed observation right now. A lot of people are feeling a lot of things, and I get it, right? You're an Ottawa fan, and one of the pieces that you were really excited about a year ago at this time has said, I don't want to commit here right now to a long-term deal. I look at this and I wrote, and I know neither of you are baseball guys, but I'm going to use a baseball analogy.
I'm a baseball guy.
Yeah, that's true, Yorkie. Wally doesn't like baseball, but I'll use a simple baseball analogy. This, from an Ottawa perspective, this was not a home run. This trade is not a home run, but I also don't think it's like a complete swing and a miss. I think I called it a ground rule double. It's kind of like something in between. It's not a great return. It's not an awful return. Under the circumstances, and I think the three of us kind of talked about this a little bit via text today. It brings back feelings of the Matt Duchene return, right? Where you ended up giving up a number 4 overall pick for Duchene. Didn't quite work out for him. The extension never worked out. You had to flip him out. And what was the return? Yeah, you got a first-round pick back, but you ended up moving down in the draft. And that year they got Columbus's first pick, which ended up being Lassie Thompson. So I would give it like a C+, C. Like it's average, but I also am waiting to see, is there another shoe to drop here? Are we waiting on, are they able to try to maneuver to get Travis Konechny or Scott Laughton? Is there a play for Thomas Tatar? People have talked about Vlad Tarasenko. Like, I'm waiting to see where this is in the totality of it. And then I think we can make a really good assessment. But the return is not, it's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not.
Can I interject? Can I interject for a minute?
Yeah.
A ground rule double, man. I'll take those all. The ground rule double is pretty good, isn't it? Like, I was thinking more bloop single.
Bloop single, yeah.
Over the second baseman.
Hit by pitch, maybe?
Like maybe you steal second, but yeah, anyhow, baseball, ground rule double, man. That's pretty good.
I'm going with wild pitch.
What?
Wild pitch.
Hey, you know what? You know what I will say though? What I like about this, if I'm new ownership, this is going to be behind me when I come in. So this isn't hanging over my head. And it's like, all right, the mess is cleaned up. This doesn't drag on. Yep. And when new ownership comes in, it's a clean slate and you start and you hit the ground running. It's good in that aspect for me, guys. But I'm more on the less. Ground rule double is a little generous for me. A little generous.
So, okay, but let's look at this in its entirety. And I have to give, I guess, Pierre Dorian some credit in the fact he didn't have much choice here. I feel like this was a take it or leave it deal. Here's who you're going to take, and this is the deal, or we don't take it. And it's that I just feel it's that simple to me. And maybe I'm wrong, but Dominic Kubalik, Yorkie, and Ian, you know this, was a free agent last year. You could have had him for nothing and signed him out of Chicago. He was free to go anywhere. Donovan Sabrango kind of thrown in and then the pick, which is a first round pick, additional. It may not even be this year. It could be next year, and it's Boston's pick. Possibly it could fall to 20 something, right? It could be a late rounder. So I don't know that Pierre had a lot of choice in this. You've got the sense that this is where DeBrincat wanted to go. But this isn't much. But I just feel like this was get it done, get it over with. Let's move on. That's all.
Yeah, like I think it was very clear to me, and I had some conversations with Jeff Jackson in the last couple of weeks. It was clear to me, and I don't think that was like irreconcilable differences or the situation was so bad that Alex couldn't have come back. I just think everybody just realized, you know what? it's best to move on.
Yes.
It's exactly like the Matthew Tkachuk situation last year in Calgary. Like to a T. So everything was the same right up to the arbitration date that the club elected for. And look, the difference is obviously last year at this time, Brad Treliving was able to pull a little bit of a rabbit out of his hat in getting Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar. I think everyone thought, wow, you did really well under the circumstances. Pierre Dorion here, again, he was up against it. And this is where I think there's room to have this conversation here. I'm wondering, because Alex DeBrincat to me is taking a lot of heat in the marketplace. And I don't know what he did wrong. He didn't ask to be traded here last year. I think he tried to give it a fair shake. He had an okay year, not a bad year, not a great year, just kind of a mid-year. And I think he just wasn't really overly sold on the idea that I'm going to come back and sign me up for 8 years. So if he's hesitant to do it, then if you're Ottawa, you got to make the move, right? Like you have to make the trade. You can't. We saw what happened with Mark Stone, and you don't want to play that game. So I just don't understand why are people so angry with Alex DeBrincat?
Because it's personal. For them, for fans, it's personal. Yeah. How dare you not want to be in my city? How dare you not want to play on my team? That's all it is, Ian. But I completely with you. And the one thing you also left out, Alex DeBrincat didn't ask to be traded out of Ottawa.
No.
He said he wasn't signing an extension.
Yeah. So, and he could have done a Johnny Gaudreau here. And Johnny played out the year in Calgary, and they kind of played a little cat and mouse. Will he sign? Won't he sign? Will he? And then you were left with nothing. And he could have done that. Alex did everything that contractually he was allowed to do, right? He wasn't standing in the way of a trade. He was just saying, I can see the finish line. I can see unrestricted free agency. I want to do this. And I think, Yorkie, it's really interesting to me. Like Claude Giroux wanted to come home at the end, and granted, it's the end of his career, but Claude, the draw of coming home was big to Claude. The draw of going home was very big to Alex. Remember, this is a guy grew up in Michigan when he was and Alex, I think, is a 97 birthday. So he doesn't remember Detroit winning Stanley Cups in 97, 98, and 02, but he did watch in 08. And when he was a kid in his basement, there was pictures and newspaper clippings of those great Detroit teams with Yzerman and Fedorov and Lidstrom and Shanahan and all of them up in his basement. Understand for a minute that this is probably what he's always dreamed about. And when he could see the finish line, July 2024, I really want to go home. That's what he wanted to do. I never fault the player for wanting to go home. And that's what Claude Giroux did here. That's what Alex DeBrincat did as well.
Okay, I'll take you guys.
Yorkie, 1 sec.
Okay,
there's a lot of stuff in the chat, and I think we need to discuss it. And that people are saying, fine, DeBrincat can go. But he held Ottawa's feet to the fire, but holding it to Detroit only. And that's what, and fair enough. People are upset about it. I totally understand.
No, he didn't.
I know. So I just want to explain. People are saying it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
He didn't because he didn't have a no trade clause. Pierre Dorion could have sent him to Winnipeg. He could have sent him to Anaheim, Columbus, pick your outpost. Now everyone's going to say, yeah, but he wouldn't have had the right return. Well, that's a Pierre Dorion problem. That's not an Alex DeBrincat problem. I want to make that clear. Alex had the leverage here. He was an RFA, but you almost had to treat him like a UFA. Yeah. And that's that.
Well, Ian,
you knew the rules when you acquired. You knew the rules when you acquired him, and this is the game you had to play, right? So Winnipeg, all those other teams were not going to trade for him because they all know he's not going to sign there next summer. He would not sign an extension. And to me, and I've said this, it's no secret. Anyone that listens to this show, from day one, I didn't like this trade. And I said this from day one. Alex DeBrincat is not a 40-goal scorer with the Ottawa Senators. And everybody thought, oh, you're crazy. But he's not. Scoring 40 goals in NHL is about talent, but it's also about opportunity. And this is why if I'm Alex DeBrincat, for sure, yeah. Does he want to come home? Absolutely. But the biggest caveat, and I'll take inside a player's mind, the fit with the Detroit Red Wings and Alex DeBrincat is one of the best fits
that he could find right now in the National Hockey League, if he wants to get back to being a 40-goal scorer, he is going to be their unquestioned number one winger, guys.
I want to wait, because you said you're the smartest man in hockey. I'm just going to point this out. Gavin, if we can play the video from April 29th.
Don't play the whole thing, just a snippet.
No.
Just grow with that young core, and he can immediately go in there and be their number one winger. And that would be really attractive to DeBrincat, number one, and also Detroit. He would immediately go in, and the effect he would have on their power play, because we've seen it right here in Ottawa, what he does to the power play. The thing is, Ottawa has 6 or 7 guys that are also tremendous on the power play. Detroit doesn't have that. So could there be a fit there? I think possibly, because of the age, because he can score, because the NHL has become such a special teams league. Like, you have to have a good power play in today's NHL if you have any chance of winning and thinking of becoming a playoff team. Your power play, what we saw with the Sens, you see with the Oilers, and that's where I think a guy like DeBrincat just becomes so attractive, because he'll basically quarterback that Detroit power play from the half wall. So I think that kind of boosts him maybe into the conversation of making a trade. Yeah, and when was that discussion we had on Wally? That was what,
April 24th.
Yeah, and I just went looking through at the NHL, and I thought about what's the best possible. I don't even think about where a player is from, because did I want to come home and play in Ottawa? For sure, but then the most important thing in a player's mind is going where his skill set's going to be utilized to the best. And if you look around the National Hockey League, what better opportunity for DeBrincat? And everyone's saying, he didn't get the money he wanted. Bullshit. He's going to go in on a 4-year deal, and he's going to score goals. And after he's finished scoring his goals, he's probably going to make over $10 million on his next contract. This is an opportunity. This is Brady Tkachuk's team. It's Tim Stützle's team. They've got guys that can score. And this, to me, and I said it when the deal was done, and everybody took this the wrong way. They said, I love DeBrincat as a player, but I don't love DeBrincat's fit with Ottawa. I never did. And he was never going to score 40 here, because to score 40, you have to play on the first line. You have to be first over the boards all the time. And that's Brady Tkachuk. That's Tim Stützle. You got Josh Norris coming back into the lineup. So, and the other thing too, everyone's all upset with DeBrincat. Do you remember when they traded for him? He was shocked. Shocked. And then he found out he was coming here. So yeah, Pierre Dorian's hands tied behind his back for sure. Tough. Everybody knew this was the place he wanted to go, but the due diligence should have been made before they made that trade with Chicago. I know everyone said that. It's easy to say now. Maybe they did talk a little bit about it, but from what I saw with DeBrincat, he was shocked. He had no idea he was coming here. And then Ottawa, if you're going to give up those kind of assets, you better make sure you got a chance of signing him. And they never really had a chance of signing him. It wasn't a fit all around. Now he goes someplace where it's a fit. And the good thing about all this is going to be gone. It's going to be in the past, in the rearview mirror. Detroit's making it like bandits, but Ottawa can turn the page. And yeah, for sure, there's cap space. There's lots of positives. But at the end of the day, that wasn't a good hockey trade last summer. I believe the trade was made for other reasons, and I do believe those other reasons were good. There was a ton of excitement in this city last year. I thought the DeBrincat trade, along with Giroux, it brought excitement, and it got the fan base re-engaged. We can all agree on that. And I really believe there were other motives behind that trade. And I didn't think it was a good hockey trade. I stood by it. I took a lot of heat for it. And that had nothing to do with the fact of him not wanting to resign. I didn't even know that. I never thought it was a fit, but you move on. You win some, you lose some. Dorian's made some good trades. He's made some poor ones. We'll see how this one shakes down in the past. But it's you never know until you see what that draft pick is, what Ottawa's going to get, and whether it's Boston's pick, whether it's Detroit's pick. But at the end of the day, the due diligence should have been done before you made the DeBrincat trade, because yes, your hands were tied, but you tied those hands yourself.
Alex, I'm just typing on the chat, which is very busy at the moment. Ian, what do they do now? And I'm going to throw I guess I'm starting this with Is there any chance that Vladimir Tarasenko is an Ottawa Senator this upcoming season?
I mean, yeah, I would imagine that.
Okay, percentage wise.
Boy, I don't know, like 30%. Like I put it like. I don't know. That's a terrible non-answer, but I think the issue for me is I like Tarasenko. And I don't have his stats in front of me. It kind of had a flat year last year, but 2 years ago he was pretty good. Shoulder issues. If you pay Vlad Tarasenko for his age and his health and his productivity, if you paid him on a 2-year deal and as if he's a 25 or 30 goal scorer, I'm in. Like, count me in. I think he could do that for you. If you're expecting him to be the 35 to 40 goal guy and you're paying him 6.5, maybe you give him the Giroux contract, 3 years, 18, whatever, 6 million, whatever. That's a little much for me. Like, me personally, that's a little high. Like, I just don't know what are Tarasenko's motives now? Is it to get a great opportunity to try to be a 35, 40 goal scorer? Is it to try and be on a playoff team? Like, what's his motivation? That's what I would like to know. But if it's securing the bag and getting a 2 or 3 year deal at 5.5, 6.5 per, I'd be really leery and nervous of that. But if he's okay to come in 2 years, 8 million total or something, I think that's good. I like the player, but he's not the guy he was 4 years ago, right? He's not. I don't think so.
Here's my concern, and Tarasenko's always been a talented guy. If you look at the makeup and the DNA of the Ottawa Senators, like, what's their identity? Like, they're a team. Yeah, they've got some skill, but they play relentless. Like, you hear this all the time. There's never any easy games versus the Ottawa Senators. And you look at their captain. He drags everybody in the fight. Brady Tkachuk. I'd be a little concerned with Tarasenko, and it's not that he's not skilled, that's whatever he plays 15 to 18 minutes a night. Is he going to be a relentless player at this point in his career? And I think it's different than Claude Giroux. Claude Giroux chose Ottawa right from the start because he's a guy that hasn't won a Stanley Cup. It's so important that he wants to win a Stanley Cup. He wants to do it here, and he's motivated. And watching Claude play last year, guys, he was relentless on the back check. Like, he was a 200-foot player. I don't classify Vlad Tarasenko as a 200-foot player, and he would worry me bringing him in and being part of what this group's trying to accomplish. And that's just from watching him and little snippets here and there. I just think it would be risky, man. It would be risky because I don't know if he fits into the DNA of this hockey club.
So Peter in the chat, I think it's gone now, he's with me on the same page. I was going to bring it up. Does that not feel like Alex Kovalev to a certain degree?
No. Kovalev that's a whole level of floatingness. Like, that's a whole different level. Like, there's a guy that, we used to have the joke about Igor Ulyanov. He was the guy that was always off the ice early. Like, he set records for leaving the rink faster than anybody and getting on his plane. And we all know the stories. Like, that was a disaster.
It's funny you say that because Ian and I had a name for those guys.
What was it?
Do you remember?
Pert Plus.
Pert guys. Because they shampoo and conditioner all in one. So they just in and out in a heartbeat, and they're on the bus first.
Yeah, we're like, that guy doesn't use separate shampoo and conditioner. He's in and out quick.
I love him. Igor Ulyanov has been around forever. That's still my favorite. But no, I wouldn't put Tarasenko and Kovalev's. Like, Tarasenko works a lot harder than Kobe used to work. So I don't understand the love affair. I guess I get the love affair with Vladimir Tarasenko that he can score 30, 40 goals. But I don't know that he's the right fit for this team. As you guys talk about, you need a team that's a little bit tougher in the playoffs that's going to compete. I'm not sure that that's the answer.
Yeah, look, the goals that are missing, like DeBrincat scored 27 last year, and that was a down year for him. I think you could make an argument Dominic Kubalik comes in and scores between 20 and 25. I think Kubalik can take away, like, he can absorb the loss of DeBrincat for the most part. Yes. Then you add in Norris, who, if we pencil Norris in for 30, I think that's okay to pencil him in for 30. I don't think scoring goals is going to be a problem for this team. I think Tim Stützle can score 40. I think Brady Tkachuk can score 30. I think Norris can score 30. And then I think your combination of Giroux and Kubalik and like Batherson, maybe those guys can combine for 75 goals. Putting the puck in the back of the net is not going to be the problem here. The problem is going to be keeping it out of your own net. And that's where, as Yorkie says, you need 200-foot guys. You need and that's where it's really tough, because how good would Nick Paul and Connor Brown look on this team on the third line?
Don't start again.
No. I'm not doing that to rub anybody. I'm just saying that's what you need right now. I don't want so that's why there's a little bit of Scott Lawton appeals to me. I think he's that type of guy. But again, what's the price? But to me, the biggest issue I have about Ottawa coming into this season is Joonas Korpisalo the guy? And is Korpisalo and Forsberg behind hopefully a healthy Chychrun, hopefully a healthy Shabbat and Zub, because all three of those guys were kind of banged up at times last year, and then Sanderson, are they good enough to keep the puck out of the net? Scoring goals shouldn't be a problem. Keeping it out, that to me is the bigger question for this team.
Completely agree. Can I just throw out one thing that it seems that we don't mention? Coming off a double knee surgery for a goaltender and being ready to start the year, I think is going to be tough on Anton Forsberg. And I don't know that he gets back to where he needs to possibly be. It's a very
it's a rare
certain future.
Yeah.
The good news is though, fellas, it's MCL, not ACL.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I think there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
If it was
huge,
if Anton Forsberg blew out even one ACL, let alone two, I would have major reservations. But the MCL, Yorkie, as you know, is a lot less important. It's even in the goaltending position, so it's less serious. I think he should be okay to come back. I'm not overly concerned about. I'm actually more interested in Korpisalo's durability than I am Forsberg's.
Yeah, the MCL. I did my MCL. I didn't even do it until my last year in the NHL. And it basically, your knee, it just comes loose. But that's just a summer of strengthening, rehabbing. It's way better than the ACL, as Ian said. So no, I like what they did with the goaltending position. I like the Korpisalo move of all the guys that were out there. I think Hellebuck, I don't think Ottawa was on his list. And I think they did the best they could with that. And you got two guys that are going to push each other. As long as they stay healthy, I like it. And you can say that about anybody, though. You just never know.
Yes.
You never know with health. So I'm not concerned. The biggest concern for me is third and fourth line. And that's how you win. That's how you make the playoffs. That's how you succeed in the playoffs. Just look no further than what Vegas did, what Florida did. It's just having guys now, 1 through 4 on your 4 lines that you're not afraid to put on the ice, that like Vegas is an extreme example, but Ottawa needs a big upgrade there.
Okay, before we get to the lineup, I just want to wrap up DeBrincat and then switch gears. So at the end of the day, is this just that we had to get it done and move on? Took a swing and it didn't work.
Yeah, I think so. Look, the inherent risk is you traded him within the division to a team that is in the same boat as you, right? Like that to me is the interesting part. I still think if that's the best deal you had available or the only deal, you still execute the trade. I'm not going to sit here and criticize Ottawa and say don't trade him within the division. If that's the only move you could make, that's all you could do. I am utterly fascinated at the 3-headed monster or race amongst Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo. Yeah. They're all around the same point in their rebuild trajectory. They're all feeling like, yes, we were 80-plus point teams last year. We are going to take a step. I just don't see room for 3 of them to all make the playoffs next year. I could see 1. I could even maybe see 2. But all 3 of them certainly have playoff aspirations for next year. And this trade could help kind of influence the balance of power, at least between Ottawa and Detroit.
Yeah, I think we still need to see what plays out here. And the one thing we haven't really talked about is Kubalik's salary. And that's a big bonus, $2.5 million. That's a huge bonus. That, depending on what happens with Pinto, Who knows? There's who knows what's going to happen with Matthew Joseph. He's making a lot of money. Like, I still think there's a couple dominoes to fall here. So I don't think Ottawa's done. This is just my opinion. I've got no insider knowledge. I just think there's going to be another move. And when that move happens, I think then we can really assess what they've done. Because to put a closure on DeBrincat here, Wally, yeah, if you look at what Yzerman traded, he got Kubalik for free. So he basically traded something that didn't cost. He was basically for free. He didn't cost him anything. And it's a pick that's everyone's saying is going to be whatever, 20 to 30, and a prospect that was playing in the East Coast League. I've seen Donovan Sabrango play a lot, though, fellas. I've watched him. He actually played junior with my son, so I know him extremely well as a prospect. His development, something happened in Detroit where he regressed. I still think he's pretty good. He was very good growing up. He was very good in junior. There's something there. It's, can Ottawa get him back on track? Maybe. He's so young. So a lot of people are criticizing him. I think that's unfair. I think he does have some potential. But if you look from Detroit's perspective, they hit a home run. For Ottawa, let's see what happens with the domino here. Hands were tied, no other options. You did the best you could. New ownership coming in, turn the page, move on. But definitely on paper, it's a big win for Yzerman. You can't sugarcoat it. It is.